Alrighty, hi everybody. Sorry about before my video wasn't working, but now it is. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about my new lesson plan that I created for my fourth grade ICT class. I'm still at Eastlake Elementary School, room 14, fourth grade. It is an ICT class. So there's two teachers, Mrs. Lakazi and Mrs. Zinkowitz. Our lesson topic is going to be on math. It's exploring points, lines, rays, and angles. I'm going to obviously be the lead teacher. You might see in the future my special ed teacher around the room as well. When I made my lesson, I was focusing on the Danielson domains of 1A, 2D, and 3D. So really demonstrating the knowledge of content and pedagogy using definitions to understand new information for geometry. And class complement points and sticks. So that's my student behavior system to have an equitable fairness to let students participate. And using assessments, I'm going to use an exit ticket at the end to be able to assess their learning after I've walked around. In HLPs, I'm looking at HLP 13, which is adapting the curriculum. There is two focus learners, Jenna and Avery. Jenna has more behavioral situations where she has to be redirected using visuals, whereas Avery is much more learning LD. So she has a filled out vocabulary sheet that will be provided. And lastly, HLP 8, providing positive and constructive feedback to guide students' learning and behavior. So as I walk around the room, I want to use words such as amazing, fantastic, things along those lines, so that to have them know that they're doing a good job during the lesson. As I was saying before, fourth grade ICT room, 18 students, including a gen ed teacher, special ed teacher, teacher assistants. There's 7 IEPs around the room and 2 504 plans. The IEPs range for a couple of things. There's 2 health impairments, there's 2 autism diagnoses, there's 2 LD classifications, and there is 1 speech and language impairment. So the lesson objectives for today, so again, it's that math lesson. Students are going to be able to evaluate the definition of a newly learned mathematical term. So there's going to be a couple. So it's going to be that line, the ray, you'll see as we go down. Students will be able to identify the shape based on the description of the features. So if it's a square, are you looking at line segments or line points, things along those lines? Students will be able to recognize an angle as a geometric shape. So when you're having it in a square, where is the angle? Is it a 90-degree angle? Kind of introducing that content. It's all based upon the standard for fourth grade. Draw points, lines, and line segments, rays and angles, and perpendicular and parallel lines. So today is that first step. So we're going to be introducing that language and the vocabulary we're looking for. They must be able to identify 2-dimensional figures. This is something that happens in third grade. So rectangles, squares, triangles, this is not new information. And being able to draw. So you'll see in my Do Now, I have them drawing on their whiteboards. So this is where they're able to produce that information. Some vocabulary: shapes, points, line segments, line, rays, angles. We're going to go through a lot of the definitions, so it is helpful to have this posted here. And then our resources. So you're going to see a Do Now. I have a PowerPoint Do Now slide too, where they're drawing on their whiteboards. We are using a textbook. It's our iReady curriculum. There are 4 sheets that we're going to be doing. 2, I'm going to be teaching and modeling. 2, they're going to be working as a group. The last one is that independent practice. Of course, the exit ticket I mentioned, and then the differentiation. So just go through their motivation, being able to tell the difference between the different terms. So points, lines, rays, and angles. This is brand new to them. They have not learned this before. It's an unknown concept. So you'll see as I put kinesthetic movement into the lesson. So the hook is going to be starting the lesson with a Do Now. So they're taking out their dry erase boards. I'm going to say, draw me a shape such as a triangle. I'm not giving them any other information because I want to see where their brains go. How do you draw it? Is there maybe some predetermined knowledge that they have from last year? We're going to do this with 3 different shapes: triangles, squares, and rectangles. I'm going to have them hold it up so I can see their answers as we go. That's going to be our intro into talking about shapes and the different lines that we're going to be talking about. I'm going to use a YouTube video, which is a brain pop, to help introduce the concept. My class loves brain pops. They really engage with the different characters. We see them teaching us things all the time, so they'll be hooked by this. It's about 3 minutes long. Then I'm going to do the new concept, which is I'm teaching. They're going to open their iReady books. The new concept is going to start with those worksheet pages. we're going to model it based on what's there. So it's going to give us a scenario saying, oh, what do you think is going to happen if we draw a shape that has four sides? And I'm going to introduce what the desired behaviors are there. The teacher will introduce the new vocabulary words such as point, line segment, ray, angle, and vertex. So I'm going to be doing different hand signals as well. So point is a dot. Line segment is a line with two definite endpoints. Line goes on forever. So these are my angles. And then angle is the fun one. So they're able to put their hands in any form of an angle. So after I'm able to go through with them the different ways that we can kinesthetically learn it, I'm going to go through the definitions as well using their textbooks and their work and their worksheets. I'm going to provoke them with higher order thinking. Show me point. Show me line segment, show me line. So it goes on forever. So they're able to still do this during the lesson. And then, of course, for guided practice, I'm going to let them, after we go through the definitions, turn and talk with a neighbor to come up with the definitions in their own words. So they'll be provided a worksheet. They're going to come up in their own words. What is a point? A single dot. Maybe someone will say, I'll be observing as this goes on to see what they're coming up with their neighbors. They're already in tables, so they know their partners. But to see what's happening, are they saying an end period to the end of a sentence? That would mean, oh, that they're not on the right track. Maybe I can redirect them. Or if I hear something great, I can come around and say amazing. For independent practice, once we're done with the group work and have gone over it, we're going to do an independent practice of them doing a problem on their own, similar to how we started the class. So understanding if they understand the different vocabulary and how to use it. So when we're done, I'm going to have them raise their hands. I'm also collecting their work to use this as a summative assessment to see where they are. To close the lesson, I'm going to hand out an exit ticket, which is going to be independent. This exit ticket is two parts. One part is drawing the actual geometric shapes of a line. So they have to remember, goes on forever. They can do the hand shapes in the air and then draw it or whatever they'd like. And then the second part of the exit ticket is a self-assessment. So they're able to circle, I feel really good about this lesson. I understand. I don't feel as good, kind of a face that just shows this. And then I really need some extra help. This is only for me to see. It's not for their peers to see as well, so that I can assess how they are doing. In terms of the questions I'm going to use for higher order thinking as I move about the room are things like, how can I label prior shapes based on what we know? So this is invoking that connecting knowledge from their previous grade. Think about a right angle. What's the center? So without me telling them a right angle, what is the center? Can they go back to the definitions and find what is the definition of line? How is it different than a ray? So remember, line goes on forever. Ray starts at one point and goes on. So I'll use my hand signals as well. And then how can we rate these definitions to other parts of geometry? So how are we connecting this to our next pieces to move forward? Again, I was talking about my assessments. So we were talking about kind of that area of moving around the room for formal or informal. So for summative is as exit tickets, I'm going to collect the data, can provide written feedback. But in terms of the actual formative assessments, I'm providing that feedback. Amazing. I love what I'm hearing. Elaborate more, things along those lines. So I use the level of material. So we have the TA helping us around the room as well, listening for keywords, stepping in where needed, grouping strategies. I have grouped them differentiated. So there's higher order thinkers. There's maybe a couple struggling students so they can learn from each other. Assessments, we're talking those formative and summative assessments. And then everyone has access to the curriculum, even though it might be modified. For example, Avery in our class is our focus learner. She gets that provided vocab sheet, but she still has access to the curriculum. Opportunities for practice, they were able to engage in the guided practice, which is going to be that group work, and then independent, that exit ticket to show me what they have learned. So they have that opportunity. And then, of course, that exit ticket is that closeout where the teacher can use that information to decide if she wants to pull a small group, maybe to the resource room to go over the definitions, hear about it in their own words, or just provide any help that they might need. Classroom management, I was talking about a little bit more before, is raising their hands, not calling out. The class works on an economy system. So if they earn a compliment for doing such a good job as a whole, that's a whole class reward. So they're able to do well inside the classroom. Currently, there are no ELL students in my class, but if there were, I think providing translations could be very beneficial as they might not have the background knowledge on what a line is, or if I can use visuals to help them, showing them with shoestring maybe, or keeping their native language still tied in with the vocabulary so then they can apply that knowledge in the future. But yeah, so I'm going to be presenting this to my fourth grade class. I think really the grow is going to be that kinesthetic movement where they can do line or ray. I'm very excited. Thank you.